Hi, PerspectiveWeather.com meteorologist Paul Dorian here on Monday, May 4th. A very nice weekend in the Mid-Atlantic region with above normal temperatures with highs on both Saturday and Sunday, well up in the 70s in the I-95 corridor region from D.C. to Philadelphia to New York City. There were a few scattered showers and thunderstorms, but most of the time there were rain-free conditions. Again, quite warm. However, the warm weekend does not mean that we are done with cold air outbreaks into the central and eastern U.S. We've been talking about the likelihood for cold air outbreaks to continue right into the middle part of the month of May. No reason at all to change that outlook right now. We'll turn cooler for the remainder of the work week after a breezy and relatively mild day today. It does turn cooler for Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, but then an even colder air mass for this time of the year will arrive for the upcoming Mother's Day weekend. On Saturday itself, there'll be a anomalously deep upper level low sitting on top of the northeastern part of the nation, maybe even some snow in the interior, higher elevation areas on Saturday in the northeast U.S. and again very chilly throughout the central and eastern U.S. perhaps near record or even record lows by the upcoming weekend. Likely high temperatures will be confined to the 50s on Saturday in places like D.C., Philadelphia, New York City, and overnight lows in the 30s for the upcoming Mother's Day weekend. Let's start off by looking at the ensemble run from 0Z, the GFS ensemble run in terms of 5-day average 850 millibar temperature anomalies. This is the current 5-day period, and again today will be a decent day, not quite as warm as Sunday in the I-95 corridor region, but relatively mild, although it will be very windy at times, gusting past 30 miles per hour. So the bulk of this colder than normal condition here is really for the next few days, because again today will be relatively mild, not too far from 70 degrees in D.C. and Philadelphia. This is the 5-day average in terms of 850 millibar temperature anomalies. Let's move forward here and just watch what happens here. It just expands and gets more and more anomalous by the time we get to the upcoming weekend. This happens to be days 5 to 9, May 8th to the 13th, includes the upcoming Mother's Day weekend. Very chilly air for this time of the year throughout much of the central and eastern U.S. Continues that way in days 6 to 10. Then it starts to show some signs of easing, but not until at least the middle of the month. This happens to be days 11 to 15, still colder than normal throughout the Great Lakes, northeast U.S. Days 11 to 15 is May 14th to the 19th. So we're even past the middle part of the month here, and finally this model goes out as far as day 16. This is days 12 to 16. Still, the average for that 5-day period from May 15th to May 20th remains below normal in the Great Lakes, in the Mid-Atlantic region, in the northeast U.S. So certainly, despite a very warm weekend, is not the end of the cold air outbreaks for much of the eastern half of the nation. Well, let's now take a look at the operational run of the GFS at 0Z. Let's start off with the daily, or 850 millibar temperature anomaly maps, just to see this pattern over the next week to 10 days or so. This is where we begin the day here on Monday, May 4th. Near normal as we begin the day, and again, it'll be quite mild today, although not quite as warm as it was on Sunday in the immediate I-95 corridor region, and the winds will pick up noticeably. Then we start to cool down though for really the remainder of the week and get even colder relative to normal by the upcoming weekend. This is Tuesday morning, and notice this widespread area below normal 850 millibar temperatures here from the central U.S. all the way into the northeastern U.S. It sticks around here right through the work week, and look at this developing here by Thursday morning, way below normal temperatures across Hudson Bay in Canada, even more below normal compared to what we'll experience here in the Mid-Atlantic region. Look at that. That's just quite unusually cold here, and it just drops south and east. Here we go on Friday. Again, all the way through the central of the nation to the east coast, below normal temperatures. And this just moves on in at the beginning of the Mother's Day weekend. And we'll see in a moment here, we'll have very deep upper level lows sitting right on top of the northeast U.S. could very well be some snowfall on Saturday in the interior sections of, let's say, upstate Pennsylvania, upstate New York, interior New England. This is very unusual. It's not unprecedented. We had some very chilly air, but similar time of the year last year. And if you go back to times like May of 1977, a long time ago, you'll see some snowfall this time of the year in the interior higher elevation areas of the northeast U.S. But again, very likely could be some near record lows or perhaps some record lows in this particular cold air outbreak by the upcoming weekend. Let's move forward here. Maybe not quite as dramatically cold on Sunday relative to normal, but still well below normal for this time of the year. Just look how widespread that is. Stays warm, very warm out across the western U.S. It's not unusual when you have this kind of cold air in the east and central part of the nation. You very likely have a strong ridge out in the west. That's helping to push the colder air from Canada into the central and eastern U.S. and at the same time it keeps the west coast very warm. They'll have some hot weather out across the west at the same time. The eastern two-thirds of the nation well below normal. Let's go all the way into the early part of next week. Here we are next Monday, a week from now. Throughout the eastern two-thirds of the nation remains well below normal for this time of the year. Out in the west, very warm, well above normal, but again, that's kind of overwhelmed by the cold in the eastern two-thirds of the nation. I thought we'd take a look next at the 500 millibar height anomaly forecast maps from the Zero-Z GFS run, the operational run, just to see what an unusual upper level low will be sitting on top of the region around Saturday. Let's move forward here quickly from the beginning of this week here on Monday morning, and as we go into the middle part of the week, here's Wednesday morning, just a series of upper level lows throughout the eastern half of Canada, eastern half of the U.S., and watch what happens here by the time we get to this upcoming weekend. This is a map for the entire area of North America, and look at this tremendous bowling ball in the atmosphere sitting right on top of the Mid-Atlantic region. This is Saturday morning, beginning of Mother's Day weekend, really the lowest height pattern here relative to normal anywhere in the North America here. And again, we talked about a ridge up along the west coast, and that will bring very warm conditions out in California and the western part of the nation. Same time, though, look at this airflow from way up in Canada all the way down into the central U.S., and that sweeps on into the eastern region. Again, a very anomalously cold air mass coming to the northeastern part of the nation for the upcoming weekend. Well, now let's take a look at the surface forecast maps from the Zero-Z GFS model run. Quite breezy today. We'll have a stiff northwest wind, a little bit cooler than yesterday, still quite mild, maybe 70 degrees in parts of the D.C., Philadelphia, New York City corridor, but winds up to 25 or 30 miles per hour or so. And it does turn cooler tonight. It'll be noticeably cooler tonight with overnight lows near 40 degrees. We have a weak system here, could throw a few showers in the Mid-Atlantic region later tomorrow into tomorrow night. And then let's take a look at these thickness values here. We've talked about these dashed blue lines here representing the thickness values of the lower half of the atmosphere from 1,000 millibars, basically the surface level, all the way up to 500 millibars, basically the middle part of the atmosphere. The lower those thickness values generally correlates with lower temperatures. And this 540 line is something that come Wednesday morning is cutting across Pennsylvania. But let's take a look as we move forward into the upcoming weekend. Again, a cool shot, kind of a reinforcing cool shot arrives by the middle part of the week, and we're definitely cooler on Tuesday and Wednesday and Thursday compared to today, and certainly much cooler compared to the just ended weekend. But watch what happens here as we get to the upcoming weekend here. Friday night time period here. Talked about that 540 thickness line. Now it's over the D.C. metro region as of as of Thursday evening. And then watch what happens here as we get into Friday night. 534 thickness now, cutting across Pennsylvania as of Friday night with that deep upper level low moving in. And look at this, by Saturday morning, 516 thickness here across upstate Pennsylvania with some snow. Again, in the higher elevation, not unprecedented, but very unusual to see a pattern like this, with not only the chance for snow in the higher elevation regions of the northeastern part of the nation for the upcoming weekend, this late into the month of May, but perhaps near record lows or record lows by Saturday morning, for example. And it's just a very impressive cold air mass here by the time we get to the Mother's Day weekend. This is very strong northerly winds to combine with these unusually cold temperatures for this time of the year, so we'll have a wind chill to deal with as well, and maybe even some accumulating snow in some of those higher elevation spots of upstate New York, for example, maybe upstate Pennsylvania and interior New England as well. Here we go. By Sunday morning, Mother's Day, chances are we start off the day in the 30s. DC, Philadelphia, New York City remains chilly, well below normal for this time of the year. The good news is maybe dry and sunny on Sunday, but very unusually chilly for this time of the year. We're talking high temperatures in the 50s. Right now, the normal high temperature in Philadelphia, for example, is right around 70 degrees. We'll be at least 15 degrees below that, maybe even 20 degrees below that by the upcoming Mother's Day weekend. So certainly not done with the cold air outbreaks in the central and eastern U.S. It looks like that will continue right through the middle part of the month of May. That's it for now. For PerspectiveWeather.com, I'm meteorologist Paul Dorian.